mezzo al rumore serve qualcosa che duri.
E il Papa Leon XIV.
Storie vere. Incontri che cambiano la vita. Persone che costruiscono. Uno sguardo originale su ciò che accade. Tutto questo è Tracce. Ora anche in una nuova versione digitale. Per raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di comunione e liberazione.
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Come il programma Easy Token Collection, per accumulare punti da trasformare in premi. Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa Sanpaolo.
Una storia che continua a generare futuro. Una comunità di impatto aperta al mondo. Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore.
Il mondo sta cambiando. Dal 2004 abbiamo inventato il nuovo modo di studiare. Scegli l'Università degli Studi Guglielmo Marconi. Costruisci serie competenze. Unimarconi. Dal 2004 la prima università digitale italiana. Scopri di più su unimarconi.it.
In mezzo al rumore serve qualcosa che duri.
E il Papa Leon XIV.
Storie vere. Incontri che cambiano la vita. Persone che costruiscono. Uno sguardo originale su ciò che accade. Tutto questo è Tracce. Ora anche in una nuova versione digitale. Per raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di comunione e liberazione.
Siamo Andrea Dellabianca, forza Inter, forza Inter, forza...
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Come il programma Easy Token Collection, per accumulare punti da trasformare in premi. Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa Sanpaolo.
Una storia che continua a generare futuro. Una comunità di impatto aperta al mondo. Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore.
Il mondo sta cambiando. Dal 2004 abbiamo inventato il nuovo modo di studiare. Scegli l'Università degli Studi Guglielmo Marconi. Costruisci serie competenze. Unimarconi. Dal 2004 la prima università digitale italiana. Scopri di più su unimarconi.it.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo esiste anche grazie a te.
Buongiorno, benvenuti a questo.
Good morning and welcome to this meeting. The title is Talent in Search of a Future, Employment, Young People and Demography. Today we will talk with entrepreneurs, people representing banks, institutions, talking about a topic that is becoming more and more topical. The shift from university to the world of work is the beginning of a growth process. And so taking up the challenge that these two moments are in continuity for the growth of a person is the core of what we will talk about today, in a context which is characterized by social, economic, technological transformations brought about by the new industrial revolutions. The acquired knowledge cannot be considered as definitive, but it must be updated and turned into the ability to deal with new situations. This is why, together with technical and specialist skills, it is fundamental to collaborate, to work together, to be able to adapt to changes and take responsibilities. Today, we're in a place, in a country, where the demography rate is very low. There's a problem with skills and competencies in companies. We need to attract young people from all over the world, and we need companies to be able to offer them an interesting job and career. This is why today we will talk with Maria Anghileri, which is President of Young Entrepreneurs of Confindustria in the steel system, the steel sector. Then we have Stefano Barrese, head of the Territorial Bank Division of Intesa Sanpaolo Bank. And then Ettore Prandini, president of Coldiretti. And with Anna Maria Bernini, Minister of University and Research. I'd like to start with Maria Anghileri. The young entrepreneurs underlined that companies are not just looking for co-workers, but for a future. However, it's difficult to build a life project, create a family. So what can companies do faced with the demographic decline and with institutions to make it once again a tool for independence and for trust in the future? Considering your role today at Confindustria, how do you propose solutions to this? What kind of solutions would you suggest? Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I would like to thank President Forlani for this invitation and for being here with me. I'd like to welcome this incredible community with so many young people. Lorenzo welcomed me today, and he told me that you are over 300 volunteers, and over 58% are young people aged less than 30 years old. Talking about young people, we need to deal with two problems. One is the child rate, the childbirth, because the rate is 1.14% per woman. And we lost 190,000 young people. We missed, let's say, 190,000 young people. A lot of young people are going abroad, and 40 companies guided by under 35 people either close or delocalize. So these are data which should make us reflect, and is in line with the title of the meeting, mentioning love, the love which moves the sun and other stars. So love as being a driver at the basis of knowledge as well. So as young people, we really decided to choose a title for our latest conference, People, a Promise for the Future, because we think that people should be placed at the core, and in particular young people. And we wondered, what are the promises that the country offered to young people deciding to set up their companies in Italy? If we analyze public expenditure, we'd understand that out of over 1,000 billion, only 9% is devoted to the so-called future supply chain, which is made up of new births, newborns, of education, because without education there are no quality jobs. It is made up of young companies, which are the real driver of our economy. So our idea is to double this number in the next years. Then we focused on the problems that a young person, first generation, has to face when setting up a company. First of all, access to credit, especially for a young person with fewer guarantees that back them up. We met many young people saying that venture capital comes from a collection of 1.5 billion in 2024, but these figures are not comparable with the EU or the US. So a young person in Delaware can actually set up a company more easily and have the same rules all over the United States. So in the European Union, we should have this discussion to create a new type of a European company that could be founded online in 48 hours with no minimum capital, with only 600 euros. And it would be an innovation that would allow many young people to decide to set up a company in Italy and operate with the same rules all over the 27 member states of the European Union. Another proposal, and we're very happy to have received it, is the so-called Borsa dell'Imprenditorialità. Think of a young person with a good idea, but before realizing it, they have to earn a living. And so this kind of scholarship, like the PhD scholarship, it is something that already exists in Germany or in Finland, and it would be fundable thanks to European resources that are already available. So this would be a great sign for young people, telling them that their family is a safety net, but something more is needed for also the society to back them up and help them, support them. Thank you.
Stefano Barrese.
Stefano Barrese. President Anghileri has already underlined this. Banks and territorial banks are have a privileged observatory and are essential for the development of an area, of companies, of families, households. So what are the signals coming from the local communities of it in Italy, the territorial banks, in terms of job, in supporting the growth of supply chains, and how do banks take this responsibility? Thank you, and hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Our presence is well established, and we have a clear vision of what's happening in the country and in different areas. So clearly, demography is something that is becoming impactful for our country, and future prospects are not so good. The population is the population over 65, so not active population, represents 1/3 of the population. But at the same time, there are very sound, good companies that have been growing in terms of technological innovation. And so, from my point of view, our companies can really compete at the global level. You mentioned the ability of companies to attract talent, but we're not able to attract so much due to the dimension, the size of our companies, because many of our companies have less than 10 employees. So we have an important number of small and medium enterprises representing 80% of the added value of the country. So the goal we should set is to have these companies grow in size. Requires, however, skills, competencies that are to be looked for in areas where these skills and competencies are generated, such as university. So having a professionalization for young people in technological subjects, but also humanistic subjects. And we had an exchange earlier with Minister Bernini, and I agree with her, because very often today we tend to overlook the human side also of knowledge, preferring technologies and innovations. However, for innovation to perform well, we need creativity, and therefore we need human skills. So university is something we've been investing in for several years, especially when young people have to live somewhere far from their normal residence, or the fact that they have to pay their tuition, the university fees. And so by supporting them, by supporting 55,000 young people, it was possible for them to follow some professional training. And at the same time, this, together with the companies opening up to the international market, is something essential to intercept a qualified demand that is, quite high, and that can be found in our country. So we will keep on playing an essential role by funding the growth of companies and the needs in terms of cash, liquidity. But it is essential in order to do this to keep on investing. So we are happy of the undergoing initiatives. There's a high demand for them, for the 5.0 world. And this will require then the competencies to manage the investments that I've just mentioned. Thank you. Thank you.
Ettore Prandini.
Ettore Prandini. So skills, competencies, development, talent. You represent an industry, agriculture, which has a historical importance, but also requires major changes, technological transformation. There's a thing of attractiveness to young people in an activity such as the one that you represent. But this requires an important investment in training and in skills for competitiveness. So what are the skills that are the most demanded when we want to make young people understand that in agriculture they can find the right careers for them?
Well, you know, we think that very often people don't know about agriculture and the economy related to agriculture. We have to change our point of view, and we also have to understand what agriculture generates. 707 billion turnover in Italy comes from agriculture, involving 4 million people employed in this supply chain. So the value of exports, despite the many difficulties, exports also in 2025 exceeded the record number of 2024. And despite problems related to some other countries, well, we must say that in the beginning of 2026, agriculture in Italy has even increased versus the first few months of 2025. Why am I saying this? Because, you know, we have to generate more attractiveness for young people coming from, well, you know, related to agriculture. Agriculture that was seen as something obsolete, actually, it can offer many opportunities. It is necessary to know more about international markets. Of course, we have to work more on them, on consolidated markets and also emerging markets. And with regard to emerging markets, we have to create culture on agriculture. And this means giving value to and promoting high-quality agriculture in order to position ourselves not on a low, medium price level, but actually we need to position ourselves on the top levels, high level of prices. And we need to attract young people. Young people know foreign languages, and without speaking other languages, we will not manage to be competitive. You know, some other markets are considering internationalization as a drive for growth. With regard to technologies in agriculture, agriculture in a few years will be totally changed compared to what we used to know. If we just think about the use of drones, we will be one of the first countries that will have the chance to use drones in agriculture. So this means that we will do treatments only when they are specifically needed. But in order to do that, we will need to have the right people who know how to drive them. And so this means that we will have to keep on working for the traceability of the supply chain. drones will take pictures, then there will be a QR code that will be positioned on the package of the product, and so we will have the geographic identification of the product, and also we will be able to know exactly what has been done in the fields, the processing up to the market, and market positioning and sustainability. Few people know that Italian agriculture is the most sustainable agriculture in the world. In terms of sustainability, if we think about medium-high levels of consumption, we know sustainability is fundamental, and of course, we need to have people who are educated and trained. And this is why I'd like to mention universities. This is very important. Education cannot be considered as a cost, as a burden, but actually it is a very important investment if we want to keep on growing from the economic point of view. And of course, universities, but also technical secondary schools are very important. We need to have those professionals that are fundamental if we want this field to keep on growing. So again, education, training, research also. A country cannot live without research. Without research, you can't grow. And so very often we underestimate the what our country can give us. And since I was mentioning drones, I'd like to mention Leonardo or some other companies or some other sectors which are connected also to agriculture. So for agriculture in the next few years, we will need more than 5,000 new professionals. And so I think that agriculture, for sure, is a field that needs a lot of investments in order to be attractive and attract young people. Thank you. Minister Bernini. So, well, you know, the previous speakers for sure have given us very important, very precious food for thought. Of course, the human factor, the ability to adapt ourselves and the ability to change is very important. And of course, also technologies are changing all the time. I'd like to ask you, with regard to the role of universities, the role of being present on international markets. I'd like to ask you, what about universities? Do they have to accept these challenges? And do they have to provide human skills and also the ability to be international? So what is going on at university level at the moment, and what are universities doing? First of all, thank you. Thank you so much, President. Thank you, President Schultz, for your welcome, and also thank you for all of you here. Thanks to the volunteers. I'm 61 years old, and I've been attending the meeting in Rimini for a long time. So I've seen the volunteers in the past who are now very important authorities. They are sitting in the first few rows. So congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to the volunteers for what you're doing. And also, I know that as soon as the meeting finishes, you immediately start organizing the meeting for next year. And I remember once I asked them, can you relax now? And they said, oh, no, we can't relax. So we have to start working for next year. So you asked me a few questions. And I'd like to say that all the previous speakers gave me some very precious food for thought. I only have 4 minutes now for my reply, for my answer, so I will touch upon a few points. Financing and funds are very important things. In 2022, we had the National Plan for Recovery that gave 11 billion for research in Italy. And what I decided to do on behalf of my ministry, on behalf of the government, I decided to invest it all on innovative research, in particular on 5 national centers that deal with high-performance computing. And we have the Technopole in Bologna. It is connected to the University of Bologna, and also with regard to agriculture, technological agriculture. This is the future. It is holistic. It involves the human factor, but also technologies, of course. But of course, the work done by people is not enough anymore. We need to have supercomputing, drones, quantic methodologies, and so this will be the future of agriculture. It will allow even young farmers and small farmers to guarantee the quality of food, and we will calculate the perfect irrigation time, the quality of crops, the resistance of crops, thanks to all these new methods. So again, as I said, we invested part of these 11 billion in technologies, and also genic therapies and RNA drugs. And you know that RNA vaccine was actually not just very useful during COVID, but actually it was a new way to treat diseases thanks to the RNA models. And yesterday, indeed, a new treatment was announced against melanoma. That is one of the worst types of cancer we have nowadays. And then biodiversity. Biodiversity, it involves blue economy, green economy, and all the infrastructure, all the underwater running data. And we invested those 11 billions on all of this. And then we collaborated with Coldiretti, Bonifica, Ferraresi. We started a lot of activities, initiatives within the framework of the Mattei plan. So we managed to generate new opportunities. There's no technological capital that is not supported by human capital. Remember that. And I'd like to say that our manifesto is actually Magnifica Humanitas. Magnifica Humanitas, what is it? This is not just a religious, spiritual manifesto, but actually it is an incredible manifesto that shows that technical sciences and human beings have to work hand in hand, or hand by hand. And there are some algorithms that are working very fast, but at the same time we need to have human sensitivity, human intelligence, philosophers that are able to ask questions to those algorithms. And above all, we need human beings to be able to interpret these questions, and we need human beings to be able to use what comes from technologies for our common interest, for our common good. And we know that technologies are something precious in the hands of the humanity, but in order to do good things for humanity. And so by joining human capital and technological capital, well, this is our manifesto as supported by the Pope and as declared by the Pope. Well, now we have time for the second round, and I'd like to start again from President Anghileri. And, well, President Anghileri, we have been talking about attracting new talents and new talents that will allow new companies to grow. We have mentioned the world of universities, new skills, the topic of research, and research, especially for small companies, is quite of a big investment, and not always do they manage to pay for the costs of research. And here are universities, and here universities come to help them. And young people ask companies for a better future. They need to be guided, and young people need to be involved. They need to know what the company is planning to do in the future. So how can a company attract new talents? And how can companies grow? And how can they also put together this mismatch between the need to have a good salary, but also at the same time, how can companies grow in the future? And yes, of course, we have mentioned this mismatch between demand and supply. We know that young people nowadays are looking for salary. They need to receive a good salary, but at the same time, they also want to grow. They want to be awarded, to be recognized. And so, of course, investments are made by companies help to prevent the emptying of areas, of territories. And at the same time, we need to refer to the encyclica Magnifica Humanitas, that says nobody can be saved by himself or herself. And I'd like once again to say that, of course, people need to join forces, and we need to defend our interests, but at the same time we need to renew ourselves and acknowledge, recognize the new needs in the labor market. We're going through a new industrial revolution, that is to say AI. Of course, AI will have a huge impact on the labor market. It is a great tool in order to support our companies, but it needs to be governed and controlled, because otherwise we will have more, but we will not be more. With regard to salaries, we think that, of course, our country, in order to be attractive, needs to offer competitive salaries. With the 1st of May decree, very important step forward was done, and this was made, and this is for a just salary. And so a just salary for all workers. And again, entrepreneurs, associations, and trade unions need to be able to work together in order to work better for collective agreements and in order to protect the workers. And of course, Confindustria has signed an agreement with 14 entrepreneurs associations, and we have defined the criteria for collective bargaining. And as I said, a just salary has to be competitive. But the problem is that in Italy, a young entrepreneur that manages to start his or her own company despite our very high bills in Italy and very high taxes, 12% higher than the OECD average. Well, it is quite difficult to ask our young entrepreneurs to redistribute in a good way or equal way. So we asked our government to reduce taxes for under 35 younger entrepreneurs during the first 5 years of work. And this is a very practical proposal. It will be up to 1,000 euros more for young workers under 35 of age during the first year of work. So this 1,000 euros can really make the difference, and this will be a good reform that makes Italy among the most attractive countries for young people in Europe. Of course, it will have some costs, but it has to be considered as an investment investment for the future. If we want to start our companies to start running again, especially companies guided by young people, which are the most innovative and also very open to international markets. Thank you.
Mischio un po' le carte, andrei in continuità.
So I'd like to keep on talking about what has just been said, and with Ettore Prandini talk about farms and agriculture, which are generally in territories that are, in areas where they lack a little bit that social content that could make social communities grow. So how can agriculture become a tool to protect internal areas and at the same time be an attraction for young people and for the construction of new communities? Well, the topic is very complex because the role of the hinterland of these areas is central and is really fundamental in our country. In order to understand what happened in past years, we should rediscover what belonged to us, what characterized Italy: craftsmanship, trade, agriculture, industry, different types of industries. We followed some myths coming from different situations that totally changed the nature of all this. And they weakened trade, they weakened craftsmanship, and therefore services. And so for agriculture, it became less attractive to remain in those areas. Instead, we should recover some form of proximity of the economic character. And when we talk about hinterland and those areas, we should not underestimate the necessary infrastructures. It is not just a matter of transport and traffic, but I'm referring to all the kind of infrastructure for development. Think of the internet network. We have a powerful network, only over 54% of rural areas. And on the hills or in the mountains, this percentage goes down even more. So even productive examples, realities, can do something to encourage some mechanisms with national operators, not just to have a powerful internet connection, but the most powerful internet connection in those areas, having the broadband there to, communicate in the best way, creating connection between every part of the world and making those areas attractive. This is also fundamental for another reason, which is connected to what happened also in our country, with wealth being in the hands of very few people. Because we should actually redistribute the economic value to the lower classes, rediscovering our middle class. And talking about young people, I don't want to be misunderstood, but very often when we talk about social interventions, we underestimate this because it is connected to demography. As Mr. Barrese said, if we don't reverse what's happening in demography, even the social fabric of the country will fall apart. So I agree with talking about pensions and retirement, because there are people with very low pensions that cannot afford a living. But we should at the same time focus on our young people, allowing them to set up families, to have children, to buy houses. Otherwise, we won't be able to reverse that trend. And this will jeopardize also the resources of those who have been working for a whole life, because we won't have the contributions of workers supporting those pensions and supporting public health or other services. Many of you have surely resorted to private hospitals in case of need, but there are many people who cannot afford that. And if there's something characterizing Italy with respect to the rest of the world, is that health and healthcare in particular is guaranteed. So a greater attention for this sector and other sectors that have made us stand out and focusing on the middle class that does not exist anymore means to ensure a better future for the next generations compared to the future that they'll have if the only possible choice is to emigrate, to leave the country, to look for better conditions.
Stefano Barrese, abbiamo detto quale promessa.
Stefano Barrese, you mentioned the promise of a future and the talent. We already knew that we need a systematic project with all players involved. I think that also the Italian financial system, the bank system, can play a role in this, has to play a role in this. Before, you mentioned university students as saying that the financial system takes risk for a person that start their growth for the future. And this is a way also to support companies, to support households, and how banks and credit institutions can contribute to that future that young people, less young people require. Yes, thank you for your question. Being close to local institutions and to the workers and companies at a local level is something that allows banks to have more important interventions for families and companies. The idea that we had for this kind of approach tried to focus on the needs of a person, of a young person that is being able to study without thinking of the fact that they had to reimburse, to give back, to pay back their fees and tuitions. The other important element were the conditions, because, you know, this kind of loan is currently less expensive than a mortgage. Just to give you an idea of what a bank does with no guarantees. On the other hand, it is clear that we do this for any kind of intervention, so it's not just a matter of credit, but it's finalized, targeted credit. In the past, we supported technology investments in energy refurbishments, and there was also an incentive for companies if the companies decided to employ. We called it S-loan. S stands for sustainable. And so it gave the company the chance to see their investment funded. Just to give an idea, in the last year, 700 million have been collected for companies with this target, and there were around 2,000 people employed. So here it's not just a matter of loans, of giving money, which is something that generates growth, because we know that the most important growth comes from investments. That's the most important multiplier, more important than GDP. And imagine what can happen when something like this is happened. 2,000 new employees, 2,000 new families, the calculation is easy. Clearly, a company like ours, with their importance at a national level, makes this multiplier even more important. Just to give you an idea, we have invested over 20 billion, and it's over 100 billion in the last 10, 12 years. The goal was to support the whole sector, and we are proud of the fact that we've been supporting associations like Confindustria, Coldiretti, or rather we've had very long-standing relationships, in particular since 2008 with Confindustria. A very difficult moment for our country. There were around 450 billion that we funded. And there were different innovations, the innovations in the quality rating, for example, because this didn't exist. It was something that was asked very often by companies, asking to consider not only numbers, but also qualitative aspects of the companies, such as the investments in human resources, the quality of governance, and last but not least, the fact of belonging to a supply chain, because the company is qualified if it belongs to a supply chain, also based on the rating of the head of the supply chain. This is made with a view to widening access to credit, knowing that credit is crucial for the development of a country.
Ministro Bernini, il coraggio di cambiare.
Minister Bernini, the courage to change and innovate, it's actually the topic that we want to convey with the great strength, is this one. And it has to do with the world of university and research, clearly. It is a challenge for it. So changing relationships with the Piano Mattei, you changed the transfer of competencies, also in many countries of Africa, an area that we will inevitably have to deal with for many years. And then some professional training courses were changed and enhanced. So with this courage to change is really eradicated also in the university and research, isn't it? I think that the courage to change is in line with providing opportunities to young people. You mentioned several things that are related to the world of research and university, and I would like to add another thing related to the ministry, which is the art training. So with all the academies for music, design, fashion, and many others, because these are fundamental for Italy, for the Italian society. The change that we wanted to bring about also for the young people approaching this world was in line with giving the utmost opportunities to them. So this high training, high education in art so far has only produced diplomas, so not university degrees. And so people who had these diplomas, like belonged to a lower category. However, art was a means for for conveying any kind of message. And if you asked me the most technological place in the moment, I would answer the world of art. If you go to an art academy or a conservatory, you'll find AI, 3D printers, augmented reality, virtual reality, quantum technologies. And so why just having diplomas for them? What we've done started in 2022 and created PhDs for them. Think that art academies or conservatories didn't have PhDs available. Instead, we gave these to them, and they can keep on with this kind of paths until 2030. And so there were different sectors that were regulated, and the people that had diplomas in those sectors have been turned into graduates. So they have universities degrees like all other universities, not only because they deserve it, but also because this will be a way to make them even more attractive in the rest of the world. The world of art is the most internationalized talking about young people and considering the drop in birth rate, the only way to make young people more and more internationalized is to train them in these sectors and connect them with associations, with companies. And the only way to have sustainable and durable results is to create ecosystems. And so, since the very beginning, we've been trying to give people more opportunities, because you cannot ask students or workers to be brave and have courage if you don't give them the chance, the opportunity to choose. And let me conclude by saying that, well, you mentioned the brain drain. And every time I hear this word, I would say that it's better to avoid it and talk about borrowing brains or lending brains. Because there can be young people deciding to stay here to develop their activity, their business, and that's okay. But if someone wants to go abroad and maybe widen their knowledge abroad, we have the duty to allow them to do it. We have reached a peak, 880 million scholarships, and it's really the highest number in the history of Republic, because for us, students are the main assets of the country. So if they want to go abroad, it's right that they go abroad. But if they go, it is also right that we provide them with the reasons to come back, which is not just a matter of lower taxes, because we cannot put such a brain in a small, limited room, but we need to give them opportunities, because, you know, students are like swallows, are like migratory birds, because they follow the opportunities, they follow the chances, and that's what we've been doing, creating opportunities, and we will keep on doing it until it's our very end.
Ringrazio i
We'd like to thank our guests. Thank you so much to all the speakers for this very interesting and very meaningful discussion. So clearly today what came out is that investing in young people is connected to making choices that have to be made by entrepreneurs, institutions, organizations, since today's choices are key for the future. They will have an impact on the future and on the socio-economic context of the future. So if we create this network and these conditions, well, that's an investment. We don't want choices to be isolated. They have to be made with a sense of responsibility. And I think this is the best investment for the future of our country that knows the value of our young people very well. Thank you to all of you.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo esiste anche grazie a te.
In mezzo al rumore serve qualcosa che duri.
E il Papa Leon XIV.
Storie vere. Incontri che cambiano la vita. Persone che costruiscono. Uno sguardo originale su ciò che accade. Tutto questo è grazie. Ora anche in una nuova versione digitale. Per raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di comunione e liberazione.
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Come il programma Easy Token Collection, per accumulare punti da trasformare in premi. Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa Sanpaolo.
Una storia che continua a generare futuro. Una comunità di impatto aperta al mondo. Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore.
Il mondo sta cambiando. Dal 2004 abbiamo inventato il nuovo modo di studiare. Scegli l'Università degli Studi Guglielmo Marconi. Costruisci serie competenze. Unimarconi. Dal 2004, la prima università digitale italiana. Scopri di più su unimarconi.it.
In mezzo al rumore serve qualcosa che duri.
El Papa León XIV.
Storie vere. Incontri che cambiano la vita. Persone che costruiscono. Uno sguardo originale su ciò che accade. Tutto questo è tracce. Ora anche in una nuova versione digitale. Per raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di Comunione e Liberazione.
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Come il programma Easy Token Collection, per accumulare punti da trasformare in premi. Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa Sanpaolo.
Una storia che continua a generare futuro. Una comunità di impatto aperta al mondo. Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore.
Il mondo sta cambiando. Dal 2004 abbiamo inventato il nuovo modo di studiare. Scegli l'Università degli Studi Guglielmo Marconi. Costruisci serie competenze. Unimarconi. Dal 2004, la prima università digitale italiana. Scopri di più su unimarconi.it.